Hi everyone, welcome back to Next Diecast. In today's video, I'll be showing you and reviewing this 1/18 scale 2003 Lincoln Navacross concept made by Motormax. This is quite an unusual and rare model from Motormax. I got it off of eBay for just over $50. A little more than you would usually want to pay for a Motormax model, but I made an exception for this one because I have actually been looking for this particular model for quite some time. And because this is a kind of rarer model from them, prices will be a little bit higher. And speaking of prices on this model will vary from, $20 for one that's out of the box, played with condition with maybe, some missing parts, to I've seen some go for $100 or more in mint condition boxes, fully, still strapped shut and everything like that. This one was kind of in the middle where the box was a little bit beat up, but I use it for storage anyway, so I didn't really care about that. And the model had its straps removed, but nothing had ever been opened on it or anything. The seller said it was never on display, so I take that to mean it was never actually out of the box. They probably just took it out of the box to take off the straps and they just put it right back in. I'm not too sure, but either way, I finally have this model and I'm very excited about that. So the Navicross was first introduced at the 2003 Detroit Auto Show. And it was shown at numerous auto shows throughout 2003 and 2004. And it was kind of a take on combining SUV-like features, like you had the all-wheel drive and everything, into a car that was sort of shaped like a sedan and a coupe combined. So in other words, this was kind of an early experiment with the crossover concept. Now, Lincoln unfortunately never made a production version of the Navacross. Instead, they made the first generation Lincoln Aviator, which is pretty much a clone of the Ford Explorer. Now, the current Aviator is beautiful and it looks great, but the first Aviator was not so great. And I think that if they had produced the Navacross instead of that first Aviator, it would have been a really, hot seller. But after this was shown at numerous auto shows in 2003 and 2004, the car kind of vanished and it was largely, forgotten about, as most concept cars are if they don't move immediately to, the production line. But in 2010, this car actually reappeared and it was sold at an auction actually for just over $23,000. So for the price of a newer Honda Civic, you were able to get this car at that auction. And that's, I think, part of the low price was because this car, I think, doesn't have a drivetrain or something in real life, so it wasn't actually drivable. It said, I actually saw the brochure that the auction used to kind of introduce this car, something like that. It was missing some kind of component that made it actually drivable, but they implied that it could be easily added and you could drive this car, or you could just use it as kind of a 1-to-1 scale model to put for show or something like that. But currently the real car is owned by somebody. Luckily, a lot of times these concept cars, once they're kind of finished with being shown at auto shows, they either just disappear or they're they just get rid of them. They're junked. But some do end up, in museums or in private collections. And this one, luckily, is in a private collection. So in terms of models of the Navacross, this is it. You can only get this model in either 1/18 scale or in 1/24 scale. You can find the 1/18 scale version in this really lovely kind of burgundy that the real concept actually came in, and also a black. And the 1/24 scale version comes in burgundy black and a dark blue. And that's actually even harder to find than the 1/18 scale version. And overall, this is, I think, a pretty well detailed model from Motormax, but it does sadly have some issues that are typical for Motormax models. So we'll go ahead and get into the details of the model here. We'll start up here with the front. I think they really did a great job with the overall shape of this model and everything. If you look at pictures of the real concept vehicle, Motormax really did a great job with the overall shape, just the body lines and everything, the shape of the grille, the profile, the mirrors, the wheels, just everything is very spot on. And if we do take a look at the front here, you'll see that they do a decent job with these headlights. I just say decent because there is a peg in each one, but although the peg is actually very camouflaged, and you can only really see the peg if you kind of look at it really, really close like this. If you look at it from far away, you really don't see it. So I kind of like how they kind of hid those a little bit. And of course, they do nail the overall shape and look of the headlights too. They're nice and flush with the body. And this grille here is also very well done. It looks like it's actually a real, perforated grille, but it's actually not. And this is actually a separate chrome band going across the hood here, and you have that beautiful Lincoln logo kind of embossed in the center of that chrome band on there. And on the lower portion of the front end here, this is actually fully made of a metal, by the way. You have this kind of lower grille and this kind of silver painted bumper lip down here. They look well done. I don't know if on the real concept this entire thing was chrome, like these fog lights and everything, but they're so small that it would have, I guess, been kind of hard to replicate those as sort of separate pieces. But I think what they have there looks very well done. The paint quality on this car is actually phenomenal, and I was really surprised to see that. They do a great job with, kind of the smoothness of it and just the overall look of the color if you compare it to the real concept car. I think they did an excellent job with that. And this car is actually very heavy because the entire thing is made of die cast. A lot of the weight's in the front because this is, the whole thing is just a die cast piece. Like the roof, everything is die cast. So that's nice to see. They didn't really cheap out with plastic parts or anything like that. Taking a look at the side, Motormax did a great job with the look of the wheels. They look just like the wheels that were featured on the concept car. These nice kind of chrome 9-spoke wheels. They even have the Lincoln logo kind of embedded in the center there with the Lincoln inscription alongside that. You do actually have disc brakes that spin with the wheels and move through the calipers. And on this model, you actually do get full steering and suspension too. The suspension is actually very loud, as you can see here. It's not going to break the model or anything, but just kind of keep that in mind. I wasn't aware of the suspension on here until I did this. But I guess over time, it'll kind of ease up a little bit. But a lot of the Motormax models don't have, the suspension. So having it on here is actually a nice bonus. They do a great job with these kind of chrome features going all the way down the whole car. These are actually separate on plastic pieces. They could have just maybe painted a silver line and, called it a day, but they actually went the extra mile to do this as a separate chrome piece going down the whole length of the car. Now, granted, it's actually 4 separate pieces. You have the piece up here, piece for this door, piece for that door, and a piece that kind of runs from the back of the rear door down to the bumper here. And you even have chrome on the underside of the doors too. It just looks amazing. And on the hood, you do have this kind of painted silver feature that the real car does have too. Mirrors might be a little bit too small, but they're actually made of die-cast metal, which is rare to see on, any model made after the 90s. Because a lot of these die-cast model manufacturers use either like kind of a plastic material, kind of like a rubbery plastic. On here, they're actually true die-cast. One's a little bit bent slightly, but you can easily just bend that back. It's probably just, a minor factory defect for my car here. Taking a look at the back, you do have the Lincoln badge and the Navacross inscription underneath that badge, and I think they do a great job with that. It's like the right size and proportion and everything like that. And they also do a great job with these taillights too. You actually don't see pegs in these taillights, which is impressive. Maybe a little bit more detailing would have been welcome on these taillights, but I think what they have there looks great. They're nice and flush with the body and everything, and they are the right shape. And down here, you do have that kind of similar grille that you see on the front of the car. You have this kind of cheap-looking license plate back here too. I may remove that or change it to maybe like a Lincoln license plate or something like that. And they do a nice job of kind of painting that bumper down there silver. That's something that the real car has. Another cool thing, if you look up here on the roof, you do see that they replicate the concept vehicle's kind of double sunroofs very well. All this is actually metal. Motormax could have cheaped out and maybe made this whole thing plastic, like, have the rear, window and the windshield and the roof kind of all as one single plastic piece, but no. The pillars, the frame, they're all made of die-cast metal. Every part you see on the roof is actually made of die-cast metal, and all 4 windows are actually separate pieces. This is popping out a slight bit on the windshield. You could easily just, kind of shove that back in. So I was very surprised to see that. Like, I thought, I'm okay, like the roof at least is going to be full plastic, but no. Everything on here that you see that is paint colored is die-cast metal. Mirrors, the roof, the hood, the doors, everything. That's what kind of contributes to the weight of this car and the fact that it's kind of a higher quality than other models made by Motormax. So that's a really cool thing to see them do. So that's a lot of good stuff I'm saying. Now we're going to kind of get into the couple of bad things about my particular model here. So a characteristic feature of the Navacross was the split trunk. So on the real car, the top portion opens up like this, and it kind of pushes up like so. And they do a good job of kind of replicating this on the model here. You have kind of the metal dogleg hinges and everything. This lower portion is actually supposed to go down, sort of like a pickup truck tailgate. Although on mine, the 2 tiny plastic hinges actually were broken when I got the model. And this tailgate was actually loose in the box. So I had to actually glue the tailgate back onto its 2 hinges. Twice, because I did it the first time and I thought, oh, okay, the tailgate probably works now. Nope. I pulled it down and the tailgate just fell right off again. So when I glued it again, I just kind of left it there, and it's been there, ever since. So Imagine this opening up like a pickup truck tailgate. That's how this should be. But, you know, these Motormax models seem to always be broken for me. I guess it's just bad luck. I'm not really sure. But if you get this model, be very careful of that, especially considering how much these models go for and everything. Of course, mine probably was just, you know, like a factory defect or something. Maybe it like fell off during shipment. I have no idea. But I wasn't too annoyed about this part not working because you can still see well into this trunk here. Like there's the 2 silver suitcases that actually came on the real concept car. And they actually have the hardwood floor detail underneath them there too. And this back window, really, you can totally see into this trunk here. So the fact that this tailgate doesn't work on my model, not a big deal. Like, it is kind of annoying and upsetting, actually, a little bit, that, you know, for what I paid, it came broken. But that was the only thing. This is the only issue with my model, is this tailgate. But it's just bad luck. Every Motormax model I've gotten has either come with some kind of broken part or a part broke during my ownership of the model. So I think that attests to the quality of these models. But, you know, that's unfortunate. But you probably won't have that same problem that I have. But just keep that in mind, that this piece is very delicate back here. This top piece, no, this top piece is just fine. The hinges are actually made of a metal. They're very strong and sturdy. You just kind of push it up like so. And this actually does lock into place, which is cool. You have that little kind of nub on there, and then it locks into the tailgate. But here's the inside of the trunk. They do a good job with, you know, kind of replicating the 2 suitcases you see on the real car. And on the backs of the seats, it actually has the Lincoln badging, which is very cool to see that kind of extra little detail that they put in there. And the overall texture and everything back in the trunk, too, looks very nice. There's kind of a nice plastic lining around the sides and in the center, too. You kind of get a little bit of a good look. Actually, yeah, this is actually a decent look in here. I just wish that this tailgate worked. That's, you know, very annoying how that worked out, how that didn't, you know, work out. But, you know, so it goes, I suppose. So we'll close this up, and you do kind of lock it into place, so it will not open again. On this model, you actually also do get an opening hood. Not many pictures online show this feature, but you will get an opening hood if you do get the 1/18 scale version. So the hood opens up like so. You just kind of pull it up in the front. So the engine, as you can see, is just kind of one single plastic mold. There is some coloring detail on the center portion here. The concept actually had a V8 engine. I've never actually seen photos of the real car's engine online, so I don't really have too much to compare this to, aside from the fact that the real engine definitely is not just one single, like, almost 2D piece of plastic. I mean, at least they have the opening hood, I suppose, but this could definitely use some more detailing in there. At least this portion is painted silver. You do kind of have different, like, texturing with a couple of the pipes in here, but that really is all you can really see in this engine. But again, I didn't even know that this even had the opening hood, so that was kind of a surprise for me, I guess. But this could use a bit more detailing. But then again, I haven't seen any photos of the real car's engine, so the real concept definitely did have a V. I think it was a 4.6 liter V8 or something like that. So I'm not sure if this is necessarily accurate to like the basic shape of it, but that's what you get in here. So they could have done a little bit more detailing, but a lot of these, you know, Motormax engines are like this anyway, so I don't think that's a big deal. Now, the selling point for this model for me was the doors. Now, the reason why I'm like kind of whatever about this rear tailgate not working is because the doors are the coolest part of this car. So this car came with the classic Lincoln style coach doors. And Motormax really did an excellent job with these doors. They feel very sturdy. They even have the side windows on them. And they work well. They're not falling off or anything. I would have been much more upset if the doors weren't working as opposed to this kind of rear, you know, tailgate piece back here. Because I got this model, 1, because I love the Navacross, and 2, because of the awesome doors. This is the first and only model in my collection that features doors like this. So we're going to go ahead and open up all 4 doors. They are a bit tricky to open because you do have the side windows. Just kind of use your fingernail and kind of put your finger where this little door handle is, or just give the mirror a very slight tug, and you'll kind of get the door a little bit loose so you can then pull it open to reveal the beautiful interior. So here it is with all 4 of the doors open. It just looks awesome. Like putting it up on the shelf like this with even just like the one side open. It's a really, really cool looking car, especially with the doors, you know, having this kind of coach door feature on it. Just amazing. And I think they did a good job with the overall structure and shape of the doors and everything. The back ones are easier to open than the front ones, but they do open up like metal hinges, so you're not going to have any issues with, you know, like them bending or breaking or anything like that. So that's very nice to see that. Speaking of the doors, there's not too much to really see in terms of detailing on the door panels, although Motormax does do a good job of capturing the three different colors you see on these door panels. You have kind of the white portion on top, kind of this brown. I don't know if it's like suede or what, but the real concept does have it. Sort of like a velvet kind of carpet pattern. They do an excellent job of capturing that. And also the lower red portion on here too. Now, all these buttons you see should actually be painted. At least they're kind of molded in the right shape. I just wish they kind of maybe painted them a little bit better. But at least they're, that they're actually there. Here's kind of a better look at this door panel on here. I love the kind of three different textures they have going on, which is what the real concept car had. You have kind of the speaker right there, and the window buttons is kind of rough texture where the brown is. They just did a good job of kind of capturing all those different kind of, luxurious looks and textures that that this interior has. And it's really cool to just kind of look at the interior from all different angles, because you can open up all four doors. Just incredible. This is a really, really cool car just for that reason, because of the doors. Back doors are just as detailed as the front doors. You have the three different textures going on. You do have the window buttons back here too, but they're actually molded in red instead of white like the front. Maybe a little more detailing would have been welcome, but I think what they have for the door panel detailing as it is actually well done. These seats are also very nice. Speaking of well done, have a nice kind of leather pattern to them. They even do separate seat belts. Seat belts look a little bit tacky because they kind of match the seats. I wish they colored in the buttons silver, or the buckles silver, but I think what they have there looks pretty well done. You do have some kind of red paint transfer, like a lack of red paint in some areas, but you can easily fix that yourself with like a marker maybe or something. I wish they maybe did a better job with that a little bit, but at least they kind of capture the overall look and shape of these seats and everything. They're nice and thick. They do move a slight bit too. And they even emboss these silver Lincoln logos on the backs of these seats. It looks like they're made of metal. They do an excellent job with that. And as you see in here, they do an excellent job of kind of replicating the hardwood floors that the real concept has. It looks like the wood that you would see on the real car. They do an incredible job with that. They could have cheaped out and just painted the whole floor red, but no, they actually put in these kind of hardwood accents on the die-cast model. So that's super, super cool to see that. And you see in the back here, you do have the console in between the seats. And the buttons are actually painted on. A lot of times for these Motormax models, they're not painted on. Like they're there, the buttons are there, but they're not painted on. But on here, they're actually painted on. A little bit sloppy looking in terms of being painted on, but at least they bother to paint them on. And they do actually do an excellent job of the overall look and shape of this console too. And you do see this kind of armrest in the center here, along with the buttons where the shifter is. They also do a great job with the steering wheel. This is the right shape and everything. They even put in the two black spokes you would see on the real car. And they even etch in the Lincoln logo. That's not just a sticker. They etch that in there. That's super cool to see. The gauges are actually not accurate to the real concept car, but at least, the real concept car has similar shaped gauges, but the font and background are actually different. But at least they put them in there, I suppose. I wish they maybe did some more accurate looking gauges, but I think what's there is actually just fine. And the pedals are actually well done too, although the center lines you see should actually be painted silver and not white to match like the rest of the pedals. But again, at least they do a good job with the overall look and shape, and you could easily just, add the silver with like a Sharpie or something. So that's not a big deal. You even have the steering wheel stalks kind of mounted on there too. On the dashboard, you will see the LCD screen that the real car has on the passenger side here. I've seen photos and it does have that kind of pulse thing. I'm not really sure what that actually is, but they do a good job of kind of replicating that look and everything. I'm not really too sure what those circles and lines are, but I've seen a couple of pictures of the real car's interior and it does have that, so I think that's very well done. And you see in the center stack here, Motormax actually does paint on all of these buttons too. And this white portion here, that actually is just a blank white piece on the real car too. But very impressive. Motormax usually doesn't go to this much detail with their interiors of their early 2000s models. The texture of plastic is definitely the same that they use for all of their models, but the fact that they paint on the buttons and everything, that's kind of a little bit of a different direction for them. You don't like normally see that with them. And a few buttons are not painted, but I think at least they do paint a few buttons. They could have just maybe made this whole thing white and called it a day, but they actually do paint some of those buttons on there. So I think that's a very cool touch. And again, I love looking at the model with the doors open. It's just such a cool looking car, especially with the doors open. So if we close up this side here, you can kind of see, just looks awesome. And closing the doors is actually pretty simple. I close the back doors first, like so, and then I close the front doors next. The front doors, again, are a little bit tighter on the hinge than the back doors, so just keep that in mind. You don't want to be bending them around too much and everything. And last but not least, we'll take a look at the undercarriage of the model. The undercarriage is actually very well detailed, almost to an upper end model quality. Like all the exhaust components are there, like the heat shield, all these different, three-dimensional parts are on here, like the two like mufflers and everything. This is really interesting for a Motormax to have this amount of detail on the undercarriage. Um, so yeah, that's, super cool to see, and there's no chrome down here at all. It's all actually painted silver. So that's really awesome. They didn't just cheap out and do chrome. They actually painted all that silver. You have this kind of brace going down the center and everything. So that's just really cool to see that. So if you can ignore the fact that I had that tailgate issue, this is a really cool model. And it's one of Motormax's, I think, better models, if not one of their best models. Just for the fact that they made a model of this kind of unusual, interesting concept car, the fact that it's the only one that you can actually get of the concept car, and the fact that they kind of combine, elements you see in very good budget model cars into their model here. Yeah, there are a few, areas where they're lacking in detail, like some buttons aren't painted on. There was that paint issue with one of the seats in here. But I mean, aside from that, like, it's a really cool model, and like the detailing is just very well done. Of course, you got to watch, the tailgate with those, plastic, hinges back there. If yours comes intact, try not to open it too often, because then it might break off. And just an unfortunate thing about these Motormax models, they do have those occasional quality issues like that. But I mean, if you can find this Navacross for a decent price, I mean, $50 isn't actually so bad for this, considering, its rarity, the fact that it has been made for quite some time now and everything, and just the fact that it's just a really awesome looking, concept car with like the doors and everything on it. I'd say go ahead and get it. Whether you collect concept vehicles or Lincolns and what have you, it would look good in any, I think, collection. So feel free to comment down below with your thoughts on this model here. I'm curious to know if you've heard of the Navacross, if you like it, if you have this model, or if you've seen it and everything. I'm kind of curious to see what everyone's thoughts are on that. So I hope this video was kind of a helpful overview of both the real concept car, kind of the history of that, and on the model here. Thanks for watching.